I'm Jacques Lebec. In this video, I'm going to put two worm boxes together, one transfer box for my 24-inch worm farm, and I'm going to make a new box, an 18-incher, to start a new worm colony. I have quite a few worms. I need to split them up a little bit. Now, what I use for bedding is mostly leaves. I let them soak for 24 hours. These have been soaking for quite a while. I always have leaves in a bucket with water on them. These are pecan leaves, bay leaves, black walnut, peach, apple, any leaves like that. I found that out of all of them, the ones that the worms perform the best with is pecan, but they seem to do good with any nut or fruit. Stay away from eucalyptus and green bay leaves because of the waxy, oily surface. They like flowers. These are old roses that kind of went the way of the wind. Throw those in the bedding. They eat them. The leaves, they'll eat the rose leaves too, not the stems. Egg cartons, the blown fiber egg cartons are the best. Tear them up into half-inch, one-inch pieces, and they'll enjoy that. Cactus and ice plant, succulents. I use them during the summer when the bed dries out fairly fast. I will cut them into pieces and then I'll grind them up in a little tiny blender that I bought specifically for processing my worm fruit. I'll set them aside. I'll do one of two things with the succulents and most of the other food. Put it in the freezer and let it freeze overnight, then take it out and let it thaw. It breaks down the fibers and it makes it easier for the worms to eat. I will leave it around my worm farm until bugs and stuff start forming on it and it starts decomposing a little bit. That also makes it easier for the worms to eat. I add eggshells. I use a lot of eggshells, and they do two things. They're calcium. If your bed goes acidic, the eggshells have a tendency to neutralize it. They will neutralize the bed, so I add eggshells in the leaf bedding. You can add them to the food. It doesn't make any difference how many you put in there. It won't hurt a thing. The second quality of eggshells is they use it for grit. Worms have to have grit for their crops, just like a bird. They grind up their food before it gets into their intestinal tract. And that's another thing about the carbon, the dried leaves. The first year growth, and you can almost feel it on the surface, little tiny grit. And that's sand. There's a lot of silica in first year growth. And you can feel it in the leaves. But what that does is you don't have to add mineral dust to your bed. And that's just one less thing that you have to buy. Leaves are free. They're everywhere. And use them. You can use coconut coir, which is excellent. Then you have to add minerals. You have to add the mineral dust. There's no mineral dust in coconut coir. You can get that at any gardening store. And it works really well. I use it a lot of times when I start a new bin. I'm not going to today. Grape leaves are great. Everything loves grape leaves. I saw rabbits eating them the other day. Cardboard. What I'll do with the cardboard is I like to separate it. I like to take the backing, take it apart, and a lot of times I can, sometimes I can't, and rip it apart. And you end up with the flimsy stuff, and then I tear it up into little pieces and throw it into the bedding and let it soak. They can tolerate a lot of cardboard. The food, this is decomposed food. This is just about the place you want it. It's runny, it's gross, and it stinks to high heaven. There is sweet potato in there. We had sweet potatoes, I think, like a week ago. Coffee grounds and tea bags. They get a lot of coffee grounds. We drink a lot of coffee. And there's something else in there. I think it's some sort of fruit. I'm not sure. I won't put all of this in one box. These are new boxes. I'll put just a little bit to attract the worms. I'm going to move the camera so that we can see inside the box, and I'm going to load the box, and then we'll set it in the new bin. And let's get started. This is the new bin that I put together. I found it in the garage, and that's how I do things. Sometimes I buy new ones. The new bin is a brand new one. This one is used. There was nothing in it. I just found it, so I decided to use it. So the first thing I do is I will take a piece of cardboard, and generally I take the flimsy side, and I'll put it on one end of the worm farm. And I'll take the food. I'm going to put a little bit of food in there. Pick it up with my fingers and put it in there. They will find it, and they'll enjoy that. I think, well, there's a little bit of, oh, who knows. I know there's sweet potato and a little bit of coffee grounds. So these are damp. They're damp. And I'm going to take a bunch of them and put them in there. And our bed should be about 6 inches thick when you start. Put it in there. Put it on the bottom. That's a nice bed right there. I'll take the sticks out. Take the stick out, throw it into my driveway, of course. Flatten it out. Okay, now I'll take the lid off of this. Is going to sit inside of that one. I'm going to use this lid on there for a couple reasons. One, it's already made, and the second one is there's all kinds of eggs on the top. The black specks are worm castings. I don't know if you can see them, but it's a little tiny brownish thing. I'm going to try to get close. I'm sorry if it goes out of focus, but you can see them. They look like little tiny cocoon eggs. In the box, the worms head for the hills. You can see them up here. They go to the top of the box, and that's fine. I'll put a few in there. I don't want to set the box down on top of them. And they're valuable little creatures, you know. So on top of your new bed, you want to put cardboard or paper. I use cardboard, and I'll use the old cardboard because it's got eggs in it. It's got worms in it, and they'll start transferring. Next thing I do, I take the new box, set it inside the old one. And I need to reposition it. So the new box sits right down on top of the bedding of the old box, and this is heavy. There's a million worms in there. They will take it, set it right on top. Kind of level it out. Take the lid, put it on top. Down. This new box was bent out of shape a little bit, but it'll work fine. I'll get it all together. It'll snap together. This is the lid. Never been used before. On my last video, this is what we made. This bin. It's empty. Because this is a starting box, you want to block off the holes in the bottom. You only do this one time when you're starting a new worm farm. Cut a piece of cardboard. Make sure that all the cellophane tape is off. They won't eat it, but it'll just stay in your castings. Take your piece of cardboard, set it in the bottom, just like that. Make sure all the holes are covered. Take the food again and put some on one end of your box. Hope you can see it. Okay. Now, that's enough. That's mostly coffee grounds. We'll put some bedding in there. We will put the same amount, 6 inches, with the wet leaves equally distributed. Some greens in there, cardboard, and I don't dump the bucket in straight because it's got water in it. Okay, now that's a pretty good amount. And on top of this, I will put a soaked piece of cardboard as well, and put a few worms in there, and we're set to go. That's all there is to putting together a worm farm. Really simple. It's fairly fast, and you know, they'll eat anything. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something.